Ghost of Tsushima wholesomely brings together honor, death, poison, murder, swords, genocide, stances, Mongol slaughter, courage, decapitation at times. You get the idea. It's a very violent video game. This is what you sign up for when your dream of playing as a samurai in Japan comes to fruition, and I just all over that by erasing roughly half of the aforementioned wholesome things brought together. My stance of choice this time is tough, unbreakable, the irresistible force, the immovable object, and rock hard. Let's give it a go. During your stay in Tsushima, Japan, you unlock 4 different stances, each dealing with a certain enemy type so you can brutalize their cheeks, whichever set you desire really. You start with Stone stance, then by decapitating various leaders around the region, you unlock the Water stance, the Wind stance, and the Moon stance. If it were my choice, I wouldn't even bother unlocking them in the first place, but such is life when developers actually implement good progression in their project. We're scrapping the other 3 stances entirely, and to make it slightly more interesting, I've limited myself from using the various other weapons you obtain such as bows, the blowgun, and offensive throwables like the sticky bombs, kunais, and black powder bombs. Wind chimes and firecrackers I deemed fine as their distraction mechanisms, but I didn't end up using them much anyway. If there was ever a time to introduce the video game protagonist, it's when his home island is getting invaded by outsiders. Nothing screams I need help more than seeing this battalion of dinghies against 80 samurai. Regardless of how skilled you are, sending a small squadron against the entire Navy head on makes me question if this guy's brain is just an accessory. He essentially just sent his best warrior to die for nothing, even after a pleasant introduction. He feels the burning, eating through his equipment, must stop, drop, and roll. Haiku is kind of awesome. Never fear, the player-controlled character is here, which means everything I hate dies, and then I died because, things went wrong. A cutscene played. You guys know what happens when cutscenes play out and I lose control. Nothing here is my own fault. In the span of 5 minutes, all 80 samurai, with the exception of the commander himself, fell for the quote-unquote pride and honor of their homeland. I wouldn't consider Lord Shimura the dumbest person in the world, but he better hope that they don't die. There's a good chance that person was on this beach though, so there goes that idea. Turns out I didn't end up dying and somebody saved me, with my armor and katana nowhere to be found. Before joining the band of 80 dumbasses in the great big dojo in the sky, this woman pushed me back into the shack and displayed some violent tendencies, so she immediately had my respect. Her name is Yuna, and she sold my sword. Not that I really blame her, it was for essentials like food and medicine. I only wish I was there during the deal so we could just rob them blind instead. Supplies, motherfucker. I give props to the tutorial lesson and flashback. It actually makes some kind of sense. It doesn't feel like a waste of time unlike practically every other tutorial mission in existence. My favorite part is when I learned that I can heal every wound I ever got with sheer willpower alone. I do enjoy a good backstory, especially fighting against the uncle who made the call that got everyone killed, himself captured, and me shot in the back twice with arrows. But my willpower alone removed those arrows and granted me unlimited energy. I need a horse to get around because the year is 1274, and as a homage to my boy Sora, I'm naming it Sora. I recently watched a Fast and Furious movie, and after the 54th time they spoke of the word family in that movie alone, I was inspired to go rescue the uncle that let the invaders have their way with our island and only one defender to clean up his mess. The fight against the Khan went very well, by the way. I managed to do some damage and was a defiant schmuck all the way to the very end. I see this as an absolute win. Apparently this is how my father died, to the NPC who looks like the dude I just killed several times over by this point, so he's brought true dishonor to my family's name. No wonder Jin just stood by and watched. The plan now was simple: rescue my failure of an uncle, retake the couple of castles because I'm working on making the Third Amendment a reality, and slaughter the Khan. I already slit one of his cheeks, and I plan to cut the other. Yuna's brother is apparently a master blacksmith and can make me virtually anything. The first priority is getting a grappling hook. The second priority is seeing if I can get a gun manufacturer. I only need 1 silver bullet with the Khan's name on it. I made sure to pay my respects before giving this guy's neck a new tattoo, made sure everyone else didn't feel left out, only to find Yuna's brother Taka wasn't even here. So to vent out my frustrations, I burned down a village. We did get intel from a curious fellow with a rather nice hat that he might be in a place called Azamo Bay, so that's where we're heading. Turns out his info was correct, as after scaling several rooftops and donating several new tattoos to Mongols everywhere, we found him on the brink of death, but Yuna's savagery saved his life. Getting out of there was simple enough. I probably killed my father's killer, and we rode off into the sunset in sweet, sweet victory. victory. I'm fairly certain I could storm the castle now that I've learned assassination techniques and an inevitable grappling hook coming my way, but it never hurts to have more people fighting alongside you. That's one thing this game does correct. The entire world is not on your shoulders, just all of Tsushima, Japan. Nevertheless, an intense archer by the name of Sensei Ishikawa has got the long-range game down, and we all know I can't shoot for shit, so it was on to my next recruit. It took some time, what with him not being where he's supposed to be. Where have I heard that before? Turns out he was just in his house with an arrow pointed at my head, so I'm very happy with our introduction. He has a student somewhere missing, and I'm not one to turn down help after all the challenges I've had to go through solo, so it was on to tracking, I suppose. Literally nothing happened on our trek down this path here, I promise that, and while conversation was exclaimed, he granted me a half bow under the impression I could do something with it. You can't progress forward until you do some target practice, so this technically breaks my rules. The way I see it though, nobody died and we shot some pretentious targets to get it out of Jin's system, so we haven't failed as far as I'm concerned. This little fort attempted to force me to use that half bow that Sensei gave me. I just stormed the base and unleashed my storm in close quarters combat. In the end, his student was nowhere to be found, but I got his support, so at least I have my sniper. This busted up armor I have is not what I have in mind for good protection, so I took on the Legend of Tadayori side quest to acquire new threads. It was a bit of a scavenger hunt, and we're not going to talk about how I launched myself off of a cliff thinking I had safe passage, but I got the armor in the end, so all's well that ends well. The armor itself was nutty as f***, and I'm just glad I'm not missing a pauldron on one shoulder anymore. Who needs them anyway? With my new threads, it was time to make good on the tip Sensei gave me and go find Lady Masako. I'm glad that this was just a warning arrow. If I got shot in the back for a third time, I probably would have just quit trying at this point. This is also the widow of the guy who Jin's uncle sent to die earlier at the beach. Turns out her entire clan was slaughtered thanks to their own population turning against one another, so everybody sucks here. Outside of one subpar battle at best, there was nothing here even attempting to coax me into using something else. At least Masako here displayed her brutality. The violence committed, I'm sure, was very, very fun. Turns out I used to have a best friend by the name of Ryuzo. He saved my life, at least that's the story I tell him. He really just stole my kill, but I don't want to break his heart so he can live in his fantasy. An ambush was attempted by the Mongols. It was more or less cute that they thought they had an opportunity. I just used my goofy goober rock stance to deal with them all. In the middle of this fight, I killed enough leaders to unlock the wind stance. Why this is relevant is not important. No, literally, it means zero to this challenge. I don't go back on my morals and swindle enemies with the various stances, as that's boring and I already did that 2 years ago on my first playthrough. This is stone stance only, damn it. We met some peasant-ass peasant who led us to a camp hoarding all the food on the island, and I want to eat tonight, so we're raiding that camp and stealing everything. A brief introduction was had with the Straw Hats reunion, and they wanted to give me some new attire, even after I told them it took a very long time to get the threads I was wearing. Fuck that. Before we go gung-ho on these losers here at Camp Food, we need to disable the alarm clock stationed at the top of the tower. We can't have anybody waking up and ruining our plans of a feast. Then we'd have to share, and I really don't care to share with these basket of assholes. Very fun violence erupted from everyone. It turns out the food actually wasn't here, but in the bay beyond this cliff on some ships. I found my way onto this ship. My partner was a drain on my resources, and it was here that I discovered a neat trick to deal with anybody who pisses me off enough. Just yeet them into the fucking ocean and go about your business. I can't even leave Ryuzu by himself for 5 minutes without him getting himself killed to one brute. Granted, the guy knocked me off my feet a couple of times, but details are unimportant. To get my grappling hook in order, we had to liberate a village from the alien invasion and make sure its citizens were safe. Nothing says I'm a hero more than rescuing hostages, beating up the bad guys, and guaranteeing a town's safety when all is said and done. And trust me when I say that stabbing enemies in the back equates to being a hero. Dumb Drum Shimura doesn't know what he's talking about. With the grappling hook now in my possession, it's as good a time as any to give it a test run. Ryuzo's useless ass got some of his own army captured and asked me to help him because he forgot his big boy pants at home, or left them there intentionally. I'm not entirely sure which is the truth. Regardless, it gave me the opportunity to swing like Spider-Man up some cliffs. I'm just glad I'm not in this game. The one time I actually tried rock climbing, I lost my balance, went nose first into one of the hand grips, and fell all the way down. I don't talk about that incident anymore. The best part about this mission was swinging over a ledge, reinforcing my self-proclaimed hero status into this dude's neck. The camp itself was nothing of note, but they did have a bear in a cage, so I let him loose and watched the fireworks from a safe position. That fun didn't last forever, but I did end up freeing the hostages. We seem to do that a lot in this game, and they actually fought by my side instead of running away. With everyone rescued, it was time for a battle, and I learned a couple of things here. Number A, I hate dudes with spears. And number B, ganging up on villains like 7-on-1 is quite entertaining. It's nice to be on the 7 side for a change. With everyone I need to save my idiotic and ungrateful uncle, it was time to storm the castle, and what a fucking surprise, Ryozo the bed again and is nowhere to be found. Inside the castle walls was a litany of enemies scattered everywhere, just waiting for tattoos. Someone explained to me how this brute just willingly gave up life and watched me slice and dice in front of him, and this fool just setting himself up to jump off a cliff. Granted, I pushed him to that cliff, and frankly, I pushed him off that cliff. Wow, I am a terrible person. I need to go help establish my hero status some more by killing some more dudes with spears. Only way to do that was by playing parkour with these rocks and entering beyond the front gate to unleash my rage. I got there only to see Ryozo this time with a blade drawn on me. We all know what happens when you draw a weapon on the video game protagonist. You get your jingle bell shoved down your throat. At this point, I wish we were better strangers as he ran away licking his wounds, but I'm always down for a round 2 later. After slashing some enemies in Shimura's Keep and unlocking an awesome new way to initiate Red Rum against thieves everywhere, we rescued the poor decision maker, drove off the rest of the Mongols into the lowest parts of hell, and retook 1/3 of the island back, but there is still plenty more to do and plenty more opportunities to be deemed a hero. While having a dreadful conversation with dear old uncle here, he needed to get some practice annihilating opposing aliens since he's been sitting pretty in that castle for the better part of a few hours now. Yuna came not too long after with some explosives in a barrel. I can't shoot them unfortunately myself, but she could and did me a service because I like blowing shit up. Standing atop a burning lighthouse in victory from the castle showdown is exactly how I envisioned my day going. Maybe Ryuzo saw this and cried himself to sleep that night in envy. While the threads I'm wearing are quite nice, I have to admit that I desire something slightly more sturdy and with a little more charisma, so I went and stole some keys from a bunch of villages and got myself the Kosaku armor. This armor actually has pauldrons, 2 of them to be exact, but in no way, shape, or form do I desire to run around in orange. They're starting to call me the Ghost for God's sake, so I feel obligated to at least look the part. I think I did quite a good job, all things considering. If I saw this walking towards me, I'd shit my pants. Yuna and Taka swear up and down that help is inside the walls of a place called Yarikawa. I think it's bullshit because these are the same people who my uncle went against many years ago, but I suppose it's worth a try. I need meat shields in front of me anyway. I offered help against that army outside their walls, but there's really no gaps to this man's ignorance as he turned me down. I have amazing persuasion skills though. I found some archers who needed help. The Mongols captured more people yet again. We'd done this song and dance routine several times over at this point, so I won't bore you with the details. Of course I won the fight and rescued the hostages. Guess that was enough for the head honcho here as he agreed to help me as long as I got rid of the hornet's nest outside. I am the Ghost, the self-proclaimed hero, and the video game protagonist, so I kicked that bitch hard. The power coursing through my soul courtesy of my new armor was invigorating. Regardless of the weapons used against me, I bullied these fools into submission and launched that guy off a cliff. I blew up their catapults because I like blowing shit up, butchered the enemy until all that was left was a bloodbath, and even claimed a general's head for my collection. It was now time to play the game. Regardless if they fought, were left terrified on the ground, or ran away attempting to save their lives, everyone paid dearly for defying the ghostly samurai. Our dear old uncle wants his other castle back as the bank repossessed it, and he's not one to take that shit lying down. Investing all our eggs into this basket known as Goro, he plans to deliver a message to the Shogun requesting reinforcements to storm the castle. The only way to do that was by getting him safe passage through the bay. We're on a hill for some reason, and his only way out is through the fucking navy blocking the pathways. A sword can't do that, but an artillery barrage certainly can, and regretfully I am forced to use it. Watches are not stone stance, so this blows. I was forced to go grab a new set of armor, particularly my father's armor. You know, the same armor who died to the NPC that I've killed exactly 2,369 times already in this playthrough. It was at the Sakai estate, and to pay my respects, I pressed F to write my haiku. Father is now dead. His armor brings dishonor, so why am I here? Haiku is lit. To be fair to it though, I gave it a test fight against some garbage that flew on my lawn. The disappointment flowed through my veins like a broken dam, so it came off ASAP. My grandma, who wasn't actually my grandma, wanted to pick flowers with me, and I don't care what type of armor I have, you don't say no to grandma, lest you face her wrath. She ended up making poison out of these flowers and told me to shoot it via a dart into some Mongol's neck. I couldn't move from this position, and now I'm even more disappointed. It was time to give Ryuzo, that bastard who betrayed me for an even bigger bastard, his round 2. I've been itching for a fight, and he needs his cheeks sliced and diced. We tracked him to a fort in the middle of nowhere, and Taka desired to help me since this place is practically a military base, and created a distraction. Who needs a distraction when you're the ghost though? I appreciated the gesture from Taka, but I decided to handle things on my own. Fighting everyone on my own, I got my ass kicked. The Mongols decided to level up and increase their stats to be more resilient and physically stronger. It went south real fast, so I had to take him up on his offer and let him run wee all the way home. Roughly 8 enemies are better than 20 plus if that last fight was any indication. Ryuzo finally appeared before me, and like always, he proves he's a little chicken shit and had somebody else knock me out while my back was turned. Now I'm tied up, Taka got himself captured somehow, and everything has just gone to shit. The Khan went on some spiel I hardly bothered to listen to. I told him to f off and give me a sandwich, and he cut Taka loose and told him to kill me. He wouldn't dare, as this man has about as much violent tendencies in him as a golden retriever, and he tried his best to defend me. It did not work out whatsoever. Press F to pay respects for Taka. I finally got loose, I gathered my equipment, and I embraced the ghost entirely and went on a violent, murderous rampage against everything in a 2-mile radius. They killed my best friend in cold blood, and everybody not named Yuna was going to pay. Quitters deserve nothing in life, and in this case, don't even deserve their lives. Yuna's plans to get off the island have now gone kaput, and she joined me in the violent, murderous rampage against everything that moved in a 2-mile radius. The fate of Tsushima now lied on the victors of the next battle, and we were certainly not going to fail. We were winning this fight by any means necessary, and I mean any means necessary. All bets are off when you kill the ghost's best friend. The battlefield before the castle quickly became our grounds, and I made sure nothing was left standing on my way into the castle walls, and any damage dealt to me was healed by my unadulterated willpower alone. We made it all the way up to the front door before they blew the bridge to Kingdom Come, halting any further progression into the castle. While some pretty boys were repairing the bridge, Boomer Uncle and I got into a disagreement, and he showed his true colors by slapping me in the face. I guess it is a fact of life that people have zero desire to listen to the God's honest truth, though how slapping a metal mask made Sakai here recoil back, I'll never know. Taka has one last gift for me in the end. On top of everything else he's given me, a suit of armor specialized in stealth might be the greatest thing yet. The plan now was to incapacitate the Mongol Empire without anybody ever finding out until it's way too late. I swung over to the castle, donated some tattoos, and walked right above everybody without making a peep. Let's just say I added a nice flavor to the drinks of aliens everywhere and watched the fireworks from the shadows. Everybody fell asleep. I pray they have sweet, sweet nightmares, and the Khan's head was next. Not even sure why I bothered talking with this stain at this point. He's already proven that he's clearly a condescending psychopath, and I was gonna kill him for taking away everything I loved. No F's given. He's the worst scum on Tsushima Island. Though somebody want to explain to me why my abusive uncle here just waltzed into the front door and met me while I was doing my business, I was under the impression we were waiting until daybreak, but I guess he's a liar now too. You can't have in Japan. So let me get this straight. We did the dirty work by liberating the castle and offing everybody opposing us. No more soldiers on our side were lost. We dealt with the worst traitor our land has ever seen, drove the enemy further north, reclaiming a large portion of the land in the process, and my reward as the catalyst for all that, I get locked away pending execution while they reap the rewards of the castle? I got a lot of bleeps coming in the next few seconds, be warned. Fuck my uncle, fuck the Shogun, fuck the Khan, anybody who stands in my way at this point, and f these archers who shot my horse Sora. They killed him in cold blood attempting to get to me, and I had to bury my boy in the cold. Things just got personal. I found Yuna after a brutal knockout, or I should say Yuna found me, with my ass uncle branding me as a war criminal, a new base of operations was needed to progress further. A couple of Mongols were stationed at a pagoda up north, and that was a better place than most. Ghost stance is quite possibly the scariest thing imaginable, and that was the deciding factor in our victory. Seeing as it's quite cold and I'm not crouch walking and teabag behind Mongols at the moment, I switched back to the Gosaku armor. The Ghost has a certain look, and this was it. Some old friends of Yuna's were looking to take over a fort hoarded by the Mongols. What's wrong with staying on a mountain in the winter? I see that as a W. Different strokes for different folks, I suppose. In return for my services, they offered to help me overthrow the Khotan Khan and my uncle from his position as Jito. The fort itself was relatively menial to take over. I was taking the north side, while Yuna and the rest of my compadres were overtaking the south side and meeting in the middle. Sometimes I just love a good fight against fools who deserve it, and nobody deserves it more than the goofy-looking moronic twits dressed in green and yellow. What a terrible fashion sense. With my friends gathered once more, it was almost time to end this war. As much as I'd love to run in, swords blazing, slashing everything into millions of tiny bite-sized pieces, we needed to do some recon before the attack. I do not desire to pull a Chimera and send my entire squadron to die in 5 minutes for nothing. Speaking of the aforementioned suicidal uncle, we kinda need his sponges, he calls his samurai, to get the job done. On the way back to the castle that banished me, I formally chose a new horse and named him Kaze, though because I'm an American chimpanzee, I'm calling him Kaze. After scaling the cliffs and swinging like Miles Morales after listening to Sunflower, we infiltrated the castle without making a sound, and because I know I'll never get the opportunity again, I slayed Lord Chimera in every way I knew how. Blade, bow, blowgun, even a black powder bomb, which is equivalent to a frag grenade. I left telling him how much I hate him, how much I need his army of meat shields, and that he can stay behind as he'll only step on my toes and get in the way. One last fight ahead of me, and then I can finally take a nap and eat some ramen. Ain't no better way to initiate this battle than with the Ghost Stance triple kill combo. Nobody is allowed to run, and trust me, several tried. We take no prisoners on this day. The initial battle squad took to the front gate and allowed me to storm the nearby ravine to find the perpetrator to all this madness. Of course, a lookout tower makes all the sense in the world. Tell that to my dumbass who recorded this about a week ago, who thought scaling a basic rooftop first was the right idea. Turns out my good-for-nothing uncle became a good-for-something uncle and became the greatest distraction the day will ever know. I finally managed to catch up with Khotan Khan, this time without restraints. The Khan spoke of certain victory, as if he had already won. What's that saying? Don't let your mouth write a check that your ass can't cash. This is the problem with villains everywhere. They never make good on what they perpetuate. The Khan proved it by running away behind his Boy Scouts. By running, the Khan ensured himself a debt that I intend to collect. Anybody that stood in my way until he made himself known once more fell to my blade. It didn't matter if it was a brute with a boomstick, any of these meat shields, or Kirito Light here with his dual-wielding blades. No one was stopping the Ghost. 3 swings from my Ghost Stance proved how resilient the Khan was, but these swings come from the vengeful spirit, back from the grave to slaughter the Mongols. With one last swing, I collected my debt and stormed out of there. The Khan is dead. Ryuzo, that guy, is dead. Is there anybody I'm missing that also deserves it? I'm sure it'll come to me later. After the battle, my good-for-I-guess-something uncle desired to have a little chat with me and had the nerve to make me wait. It's just plain rude making your not-son wait for you, but I managed, and while waiting, because it was casual Friday, I threw on some other attire. We rode for a while, all the way up to this red leaf tree. He indirectly told me that I had to die for my actions, the same actions that saved hostages and families the world over and, you know, literally ended the worst war the island had ever seen. Samurai code is complete and utter bullshit at this point. But I am certainly not going to let the uncle who sent hundreds to die without a plan and was willing to throw the entire island's populace away, all for the sake of the Shogun and honor. If you want to know what honor looks like, go watch the redemption arc Zuko went through. The battle was intense, and throughout the encounter, Chimera made it abundantly clear that pleasing some no-named NPC who never even appeared was more important than the only family he had left. And this man wanted me as his son? I couldn't ask for a worse father figure. I did not choose to kill him to honor his wish, but as an act that was required for the progression of the island of Tsushima and to get that incredible white ghost armor. The deed was done, I cried tears of joy, and I did not beat Ghost of Tsushima using only Stone Stance. There's only 2 instances in the entire game where you were required to use a weapon other than your sword to get through: the Hwachin near the bay and the blowgun on the cliff. Rather impressive considering how often the game tailors you to use the various weaponry. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving it a like, or if you hated it, leave it a dislike. And if you haven't already and you like what you see on the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Helps me out a ton. Shoutouts to my Patreon supporters for making videos like this one possible. Have a good one. Peace out.